It's that one night where things aren't always what they seem. Blood flows without wounds. Pumpkins are paired with power tools.
Here we go, it's gonna get loud.
Cuddly theme parks turn creepy.
Come on down to the farm.
Monsters are made of latex and paint. Terror becomes a virtue. And laughter morphs into screaming. Don't try to run, because there's nowhere to hide. It's Halloween Tech on Modern Marvels. All reasons cited by consumer groups for Americans to spend, spend, spend. Every year, Knott's Berry Farm in Orange County, California, cashes in on the festivities. Knott's is home to the largest Halloween attraction in the world. For the entire month of October, the park gets a macabre makeover. And after regular park hours, it reopens as Knott's Scary Farm and unleashes its world-famous Halloween haunt. It was the first theme park conversion of its kind anywhere, and competitors have been dying to catch up since it opened over 30 years ago.
Halloween Haunt is a special ticketed event here at Knott's where we transform the whole park from Knott's Berry Farm into a haunted attraction. The streets are filled with ghouls and monsters that chase you around. We transform the rides, we decorate the whole park. It's a complete atmospheric transformation.
We have over 500,000 people come into the event, and we run 28 days, so it's about 15% of our yearly attendance.
Halloween Haunt is 160 sprawling acres of elaborate mazes, Halloween-themed shows, and hundreds of specially employed monsters. But Halloween Haunt wasn't always a huge production.
Halloween Haunt started in 1973 when the Knott family asked some of the employees to decorate the mine ride. And a few of the employees decided to dress up and hide in there. That was very successful, so they did it a little bit more the next year, and it's just progressed from there.
Today, the park's design team works year-round on the haunt, and the majority of that time is spent on the mazes.
We start planning Halloween Haunt as soon as Haunt this year opens, as we see which mazes were good and which ones need to be improved. So right away, we figure out what we need to do better for next year.
Each maze takes about 3 weeks to construct, but requires months of planning before building can begin.
Maybe February, March, we start doing ground plans and elevate things. Then we start figuring out the prop lists, the lighting, special effects, the talent.
40 for Mommy, 41 for Daddy. How many for you?
So by the time the summer season here opens, we're completely working on Halloween.
At the Scene Shop, the special effects team builds the interactive features for each maze.
At the beginning of Haunt, we meet with the design team, and they go through the mazes and they tell us what creatures are in there. We sit down after that and look at each effect and figure out how to make it work. We would figure out which movements they wanted to do, and then mechanically we figure out where the joints go, and it's mostly pneumatic. So we put air cylinders that will actually be the muscles for the movements.
Despite the complex circuitry and yards of delicate wiring, these animatronic beasts are built to take a beating.
We have to overbuild everything that we build. Everything's got really large bearings and stiff, thick-walled steel because these things have got to run for a month. So when we're designing them, we have to kind of anticipate everything that might go wrong, find out where the weak points are, and then build it accordingly. And let's say it's going to run every 10 seconds. Well, if you do the math, that actually is about 80,000 cycles per haunt. This piece is what we're calling the Alien Queen. And this is the biggest piece that we're doing this year. She goes up to like 12 feet tall with full movement, and then the people will shoot. And she'll drop down and die.
While the special effects crew gets over 100 assorted animatronics ready for haunt, a team of carpenters, painters, and fabricators construct walls and set pieces for the new mazes.
We probably use about 8,000 2x4 by 16 foot pieces of wood, probably around 800 2x4 by 8 foot. The 8-footers are for building walls and the floor framing. Go through a lot of boxes of screws.
Sound designer Adam Hankinson cranks the fright factor in these mazes up to 11 with unique soundscapes, a combination of music, voice, and sound effects.
I have the new vampire maze on the system. This is called Club Blood, which is going to be like an industrial hangout for vampires. And it's going to be driven mainly by the music track. Where normally a sound engineer would work hard to create dynamics within a piece of audio to give some emotion to the music. I have to break the rules and go the opposite way here. And I have to squash the tracks down and try and keep them very flat and level so that the guest always gets the same experience when you walk through the maze.
The mazes are scary on their own, but there's nothing like the human, or in this case, inhuman touch to ignite serious chills. Knott's wardrobe department has the monumental task of outfitting 1,000 monsters with individualized costumes every night.
We've learned over the years how to build a costume to survive haunt. We do a lot of double stitching. We also know where the stress points are on the costume, so we'll go in and reinforce that costume with maybe a double layer on the knees, around the elbows.
A team of 30 morbid makeup artists puts the finishing touches on each actor.
We have a total of 200 employees that are in makeup during haunt. 85 of them are in prosthetic, and 115 of them are in two-dimensional paint.
The other 800 monsters are in masks. Over the 3 months leading up to Halloween Haunt, all of these departments pull together with the intent to create scares that will have paying customers screaming for more. The success of each Halloween season means longevity for the folks at Knott's Berry Farm. And the same was true for the ancient Celts of what is today Scotland and Ireland. They started the holiday from which Halloween evolved, Samhain. The celebration was a time used by early Celtic societies to prepare supplies and slaughter livestock for winter storage.
Food is probably the most important thing in relation to Halloween. It's the harvest festival. Agrarian societies had to have the food to get through the winter. You couldn't go down to the corner store. It was an impossibility. It didn't exist. So that food was very important.
Pamela Apkarian Russell ought to know. The self-proclaimed Halloween Queen holds court from her Castle Halloween Museum in Benwood, West Virginia, home to over 15,000 Halloween collectibles.
These are our only 2 actual Druid pieces. We've looked for them for many years. These are Victorian pieces from the Order of Druids, which was a rather exciting find for us.
The Ancient Druids, a scholarly Celtic group, believed that on October 31st, the boundary between the living and deceased dissolved. They lit bonfires and donned costumes with masks in order to keep evil spirits at bay.
The idea of a mask is to conceal. And if what you are wearing is scary enough, then no evil can come to you because it's more scared of you than you are of it. It's a protection thing.
Then came the rise of Christianity.
Just as when the pagan religions were being persecuted and gotten rid of, all of their sites were taken over by the Christian groups. They put their churches on those sites. They not only incorporated the sites, but they incorporated the dates of their religious festivals.
In 835, Pope Gregory IV moved the Catholic celebration All Saints' Day from May 13th to November 1st. The night before became known as All Hallows' Eve.
And All Hallows' Eve, or Samhain, was just one of the many holidays that were usurped by the Catholic Church.
All Hallows' Eve was eventually shortened to Halloween. The wave of Irish immigrants who fled the potato famine brought the pseudo-pagan harvest festival to the United States around 1845. Pamela Apkarian Russell's Castle Halloween catalogs the holiday's development since it arrived in America. In the mid-20th century, rowdy kids rang in the Devil's Night with noisemakers, and she has about 500 antique styles.
And I think it's unfortunate that kids are not using the noisemakers today, because noisemakers are part of keeping away the evil spirits. That's what it's all about. Clickers were what they used during World War II for the Allies to locate each other in France. Castle Halloween Museum is an archaeology of Halloween. It's all the strata. It's the social history of the holiday. All of the things that have affected it, all of the things that the people say are part of it, which aren't part of it. It shows you how things evolve.
And it demonstrates Halloween's growing economic impact over the last 200 years.
After 1900, a company came along called Denison. Denison is one of the most important things that happens to Halloween in this country. They came out with a book called the Bogey Book and the Party Book. And in it they sold crepe paper, seals, decorations. But not only did they sell these things, they told you what to do with them. I can't say enough for what Denison did for the Halloween market, because they commercialized it.
Halloween never looked back. A century later, the world's largest seasonal Halloween retailer is Spirit. Mostly because its owners have mastered the art of turning a big profit fast.
Generally speaking, works this way. August 1st, store like this, vacant. By September 1st, we're fully merchandised. It's taken about 2 weeks for us to construct it, and by November 2nd, we will close the store and you won't even know we're here. I think about it like the circus. We come in, we roll out our tents, we create the magic, we roll our tents back up, and poof, we're gone.
During its short retail season, Spirit stores facilitate Halloween shopping for 25 million people. From its main distribution center in Pineville, North Carolina, Spirit ships goods to 6 regional depots around America. From there, the regional depots disperse merchandise to 625 seasonal Spirit outlets in 47 states. Over 20% of that merchandise is home decor, the fastest growing niche in the Halloween market.
What really changed about Halloween is when Halloween decor really took off, and it became all about the wow factor. When I was a child, most families were limited to putting a ghost cutout in the window and maybe a carved pumpkin on their porch. Nowadays, you can do whatever you want.
I have a few conditions of my own.
Families have the ability to start their theme for that year in their front yard, carry it all the way through their house, and you're really only limited by your own imagination.
Or procrastination.
People are just accustomed to getting things when they want it, on their timetable, not necessarily on a retail timetable. So much of our business happens the last 10 days that we strive to be fully in stock in those last 10 days. Trick or treat!
The mad spending rush between October 21st and Halloween Day accounts for over 70% of the season's sales.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And as Halloween maniacs scramble to find costumes, they'll also be shopping for accessories to give their outfits a gory glamour. Over 7 million Americans buy Halloween costumes and accessories for their pets every year. In 2007, Devil was the most popular costume for our furry friends. Halloween Tech will return on Modern Marvels. New York's Halloween Parade in Greenwich Village is the largest such spectacle in America. For one night, the parade spans over a mile, attracting 2 million spectators. A variety of performers, dozens of floats and giant puppets, and 50,000 costume participants. The costumes range from the conventional to the ridiculous. And it's no wonder, considering a full third of Americans dress up for Halloween. For over 75 years, costumes and Halloween have gone hand in hand in the United States. And surely film and video manufacturers have made a fortune off our desire to document the get-ups. Costume designers like Spirit Halloween are always chasing the next big seller. Its creative team may work on a single product concept for up to 18 months in advance of the holiday, but it's trained to change course at a moment's notice.
We have a timeline that certainly works well out in advance, but we also have the flexibility to react very quickly to timely issues. So for instance, a political issue that's going to come on suddenly is going to influence costuming. And I can tell you, over the last 4 elections, literally the mask that has sold the most has been the predictor of the eventual winners.
While some Halloween costumes parody pop culture personalities that come and go,
Cowabunga, dude!
Others stick to tried and true icons that have endured for decades. Every spring, buyers for Halloween stores around the United States watch as costume manufacturers like Shirley of Hollywood parade their latest looks down the catwalk. At shows like these, retailers can decide what new favorites will go on shelves next to the classic standbys. If you want to know where Hollywood's elite shop for a little more exclusive look, check out Cinema Secrets in Burbank, California. For more than 20 years, Maurice Stein has been building a Halloween costume and special effects empire out of makeup, latex, and fabric. His women's line of costumes reflects his customers' desire to show more with less.
The costumes are getting smaller. The girls today want to see less of a costume. They want to be able to do fantasy fun things. So we're making costumes that are shorter, that are low cut.
So you've got your costume, but how do you dress up all that extra skin? Maurice has got that covered too. The Cinema Secrets product line, Wuchi, gives any costume a showbiz quality twist.
There are probably over 400 or 500 different Wuchi pieces that can be glued onto the skin. Anywhere on the face, the arms, the body. It's because they are made out of a latex material. They can be used as many as 100 times.
To make the Wuchis, workers pour the latex for each individual piece by hand.
What we see her doing now is tapping the edges to get this little flowery edge. What that does is it breaks up that real hard edge so that when this is glued onto the skin, it helps to camouflage that edge perfectly. Once that's done and this dries on here for about 20 minutes, all this extra liquid will be poured out of here and it will dry for approximately an hour to an hour and a half.
Once the pieces are fully cured, workers trim away any excess latex, and the wuchi is ready for airbrushing. Stein's wuchis allow anyone to apply prosthetics like a pro. First, you gotta make them stick.
Spirit gum's been used for years and years and years in theater. It's a resin-based material and probably one of the least expensive adhesives used for makeup or on the face.
Once you glue on the appliance, apply makeup to camouflage the edges.
He's definitely going to bruise if somebody slammed a bolt into your face. Now comes the fun, gory part that everybody loves the most, blood. We've got here 2 actual different types of blood. I'm gonna start with our blood gel, which is our more coagulated, because it tends to stick where I want to put it. This is our FX blood, which is your brighter, fresher, runnier kind of blood, like he just got that and it's pouring right down his face. And in real wounds, blood clots at different times, so I like to use a little bit of both. And there you have it. You've got your bloody bolt. He's been pretty messed up. An industrial accident. Don't file any reports.
Couple your awesome garb with some cool monster makeup, and you'll be a knockout this Halloween. But a mask could be what turns that costume into a real killer. Monster Makers in Lakewood, Ohio, creates custom masks, as well as kits for people to make professional-grade latex masks at home. They craft their masks from a type of foam latex that provides a very elastic, skin-like quality. Monster Makers uses several methods to build masks. One way is to pour the latex directly onto the face. Another utilizes a clay model. For this technique, designers create a sculpture of the mask. Then they cast it in plaster to create a mold for mass production. Next, a blender mixes the foam latex components: a foam base, gelling agent, curing agent, and pigment. The mask makers paint the mold with a latex base and use lights to bake the mask at a low temperature. Once the mask is fully cured, workers paint it and add extras like hair, slime, or fake blood. Masked or maskless, Halloween is your ticket to swap your identity for one in your dreams or nightmares.
What separates Halloween from everything else is it's a holiday where you can be whatever or whomever you want to be. How fantastic is that? You want to be an astronaut, you want to be a president, you want to be a hero, you want to be a villain, you want to be a ghost. You can be anyone without any consequences. And what could be more fun?
Good question. Maybe it would be using a litany of power tools to give this orange icon an extreme facelift. In 2007, Princess was the most popular children's Halloween outfit. Over 4 million little girls, and perhaps some big girls too, wore a variation of the costume. Halloween tech will return on Modern Marvels. On Halloween 2006, Boston, Massachusetts broke the world record for the most jack-o'-lanterns lit at the same time, a whopping 30,128. That may seem like a lot of pumpkin, but it's just a fraction. 1 billion pounds of the symbolic gourd are grown in America every Halloween season. And almost half of those pumpkins, about 490 million pounds, come from Fry Farms in Keens, Illinois. Every spring, Fry Farms begins prepping for the fall season.
We've got very non-intrusive farming practices. There's no disking involved in many of our no-till fields, which helps with erosion from rainfall. The pumpkins are actually direct seeded into a bed of whatever was left over from the previous year, whether it be corn trash or bean trash, whatever's left on the land, and we'll drill directly into that.
Fry's farming practices aim to reduce stress on the pumpkins and encourage healthy growth.
Once we do have the seed planted, we then begin to do two things. We begin by cultivating to try to control the weed pressure, and then also we also add fertilizer as the plants begin to grow. We will begin to see them vine out, and then we will start to see flowers, and at that time we add bees for pollination. Usually it is about 1 hive for every 2 acres.
By late summer, the canopy and vines lay down in the fields, and the mature pumpkins are ready for harvest. Workers use pruning shears to detach each one from its vine. And just like cutting up a jack, they've carved up 20 old buses to haul the ripe fruit out of the field.
If you notice, we don't have $75,000 tractors pulling massive trailers to harvest things out of the field. We're converting school buses that cost $3,000 to $5,000, and we're cutting the sides out and making them not only the pulling mode of transportation, but also the harvest wagon.
During the Halloween season, Fry Farms Produce Headquarters ships pumpkins to strategically placed distribution centers all over the United States. Millions of these pumpkins will be gutted, carved, lit up, and displayed in the days leading up to Halloween. The ritual of crafting jack-o'-lanterns dates back as early as the 17th century in Britain and Ireland, where people often made lanterns out of hearty vegetables, like this hapless little beet. Others carved cabbages and even turnips. But these lanterns were associated with harvesting long before they were connected with Halloween. Tom Nardone, author of the best-selling book Extreme Pumpkins, is retooling the standard approach to carving the bright orange squash.
I got started carving these pumpkins because I really got sick of seeing these terrible painted pumpkins you see at the grocery store. You know, they have like Casper the Ghost painted on them. Like, that's not scary. Who decided that was Halloween? Halloween to me was, you know, fun and scary and adventurous.
Nardone's crusade is to take back October 31st from the goody-goodies with tricked-out pumpkins sporting everything from blood to radioactive waste. These ain't your daddy's jack-o'-lanterns. Inside Tom's mad laboratory, his 750-square-foot garage, he's crafting one of his signature creations, the puking pumpkin.
This is really easy. If you guys are at a pumpkin carving party and you don't really want to carve pumpkins, but you have to, just make one of these. Okay, squinted eyes, big nostrils because you want some of the vomit to come out the nose, and then a big giant mouth. And then what you do is you carve the pumpkin and you just pull all the seeds and guts out of the mouth. It's so easy.
The puking pumpkin's charm is in the guts, but some pumpkin patterns require an empty gourd. For those, Nardone invented a nifty gadget dubbed the gooper.
Most people use an ice cream scoop or a little scoop to scoop out the goop inside the pumpkin, but I made this thing. So it just spins around and scrapes the inside of the pumpkin, gets all the guts out.
This is just one of the power tools Nardone uses to shave time and energy from the carving process.
This is my favorite and the tool I use most, the jigsaw. Just gonna do most of the cuts. I try to do the delicate stuff first, so I'm gonna do all these flames, start at the bottom and go up. Then I'll do the face, just like a powered version of one of those kids' little pumpkin carving tools.
For large jobs like stem removal, Nardone prefers the reciprocating saw.
I use it when the going gets tough, and in this case, around the stem, it's really woody, so this will take care of that in no time.
And when he needs to skin a pumpkin, Tom breaks out a device usually reserved for delicate woodworking, a Dremel tool.
So it spins real fast, and this is actually called the pumpkin carving bit, if you can believe that. When you shave just the skin away, the light will shine through there quite well, because pumpkins are mostly water. So then you'll get 3 different shades, white, yellow, orange. Is what you'll get when you light it.
Every year, Nardone invents new gear to jack up his jacks. A sump pump allows for continuous projectile vomiting. This pumpkin, fired up with old furnace parts, needs 10 feet of tree clearance prior to ignition. Nardone contends anyone can carve up a pumpkin to suit their tastes, scare their neighbors, and impress their friends. And how's this designed for scary?
Yeah, you know, sometimes if you're doing like a real person's face, not some sort of mutant weirdo like this one, you want to make the nostrils round. In general, if you want to make someone's face ugly, you make it not symmetric. I never beat myself up if the design's not going right. It's a $5 pumpkin. I'll just make another one.
Another Halloween classic emerges from this factory. A confection so inextricably linked with the occasion that Halloween accounts for 3/4 of its sales. Any guesses what it is? In 2007, Joe Jutras of Rhode Island grew the biggest pumpkin ever recorded, 1,689 pounds. Jutras' giant pumpkin beat the previous record set in 2006 by 187 pounds. Halloween Tech will return on Modern Marvels. Candy, candy, and more candy. Halloween is a free pass for kids to gobble up sweets by the bagful. Over 36 million children go out trick-or-treating, and over $21 million will be spent on sweets. And that includes the quintessential Halloween treat, candy corn. At the Brock's factory in Chattanooga, Tennessee, workers produce 2 billion kernels of candy corn every year. And Halloween will count for over 75% of sales.
We make about 50,000 pounds of candy corn a day. That's about 12.6 million pieces of candy corn.
Candy corn was invented in the 1880s, and its tricolor design was considered revolutionary. It was originally made by hand in small batches. But the cooking process is now fully mechanized.
The entire kitchen is computer controlled, and in that system, it controls each step of the process. This is the first stage in the cooking process. It's where we blend the sugar and the corn syrup. We put about 750 pounds in each batch of the product, and about 400 of that is the corn syrup, and about 350 of that or so is the sugar.
The Mazzetta cooking process is next. This technique turns candy corn's liquid base into a fluffy solid.
There we bring together ingredients like sugar and gelatin, whip those with air. It creates sort of a meringue, and that meringue is what gives the candy corn its body and its structure.
Next, candy makers combine the mixture with fondant, a firm sugar-based icing. Then workers add color to create candy corn's signature orange and yellow layers. The kernels begin to take shape through a cornstarch molding process. The cornstarch molding machine fills trays of 1,260 individual candy corn molds with cornstarch. A conveyor moves each tray under a board of kernel-shaped air nozzles. The nozzles knock away excess cornstarch and leave only a thin layer in each mold. A series of 3 pumps then injects each individual mold with layers of white, orange, and yellow liquid candy. A conveyor then loads the trays into stacks. The liquid kernels cure for 24 hours. They're then polished, and the finished candy corn is sent off to packaging.
This is the packaging center where we package the candy corn for retail sale. This bagger will package over 22,000 bags of candy in an 8-hour shift. That's over 66,000 bags of candy corn a day. The scale looks at 10,000 different weight combinations in order to get the exact right amount of candy corn in each customer's bag.
But the 96% of Americans who are planning to purchase Halloween confections need more than candy corn to fill those bright plastic buckets. Over 1,000 U.S. candy makers produce bite-sized chocolates, and those mini candy bars for Halloween make up almost 40% of chocolate sales every year. All of which translates into lots of sugar-high trick-or-treaters. The origin of trick-or-treating may be the practice of souling on All Hallows' Eve in medieval Britain and Ireland. The poor would go door to door, pleading for change and food. In exchange, the beggars would pray for the household's dead. Scholars still debate whether or not American trick-or-treating is based on this tradition, But kids couldn't care less. All they need to know are those 3 simple words that grant access to sacks of free candy.
Trick or treat!
Another spooky sweet to emerge this time of year is the sugar skull for the Mexican celebration Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead. Like Halloween, Day of the Dead was also a dark festival usurped by the Catholic Church.
Halloween and Day of the Dead are frequently confused, but in Day of the Dead, the families are inviting their spirits of their family back into the home. And in Halloween, they're trying to scare off the spirits.
Day of the Dead was first documented in Mayan codices over 3,000 years ago.
They used to celebrate a whole month for the dead children and a whole month for dead adults. And when the priests came from Spain to the New World, they decided that they would not fool with the thing that was so important with the cult of the dead. So what they did was they overlaid the holidays that were being celebrated already, the honoring of the dead, right on top of the Catholic feast holiday, All Souls Day and All Saints Day.
Both holidays, however, have a strong emphasis on bringing family together. And making sugar skulls to revere the dead is a time-honored craft. Families place sugar skulls and other offerings to the deceased on an altar, or ofrenda.
Immigrants have memories of going to the Indian village markets and farmers markets to buy these. But these are not made by the families. The tradition there is to have a very expert sugar skull maker. But a sugar skull maker will make maybe up to 10,000 skulls and will take about 5 months of the year to make them.
The skulls are a simple mixture of water, sugar, and meringue powder. Skull makers adorn each one with the name of the deceased.
That comes from a Catholic tradition that occurred about the time of the colonias. That would be about the 18th and 19th centuries, where the bones in the cemetery would be excavated after 7 or 8 years and make room for more people to use the cemetery. They always wanted to make sure that the family got the correct skull of their loved one. So the priests would scratch and etch the name of the person on the top of the skull.
Sugar skulls, candy corn, and bite-sized chocolate bars hit the spot for most Halloween revelers. But some are trading in those treats for tickets to a rancid buffet at one of the scariest haunted houses in America, where it's serving up big helpings of high-tech horror nightly. According to the National Confectioners Association, 90% of parents say they eat candy out of their kids' trick-or-treating stash. The most popular items to swipe are mini chocolate bars, while the least favorite candy among thieving parents is licorice. Halloween Tech will return on Modern Marvels. The Haunted House. It's big business. The most sought-after attraction by Halloween fanatics. There are over 1,200 haunted houses operating in the United States. And these attractions are thought to bring in over $200 million every year. One wants to lay claim to best in America, even if it means overstepping the limits of good taste. Halloween Productions, Inc. guarantees all-out terror around every turn of The Darkness, its premier haunted house in St. Louis, Missouri. Fright is splattered all over the 2-story, 25,000-square-foot haunted house.
The Darkness, when it's in operation, has over 40 live actors. We have over 100 sophisticated multi-motion animatronics. We have over 40 sets. We have approximately 10 to 15 computer-generated image effects. We have special effects, air cannons, smell machines. I mean, we have it all here.
Every Halloween season, over 50,000 people step into the darkness at $16 a pop. And some never come out. Just kidding. But the patrons are shaken as a blood-curdling spectacle of horror unfolds all around them. The high-tech hijinks inside these walls are on par with cinema-caliber special effects.
Hollywood has moved from all these special effect artists and all these sculptors and creative people and pushed them out of the business. They got replaced by CGI. And so now these Hollywood special effect artists have worked on the biggest movies in the business. They're making props and products for the haunted house industry. And they have really pushed the creativity of the attractions.
One of the Darkness's Hollywood quality sets, the Swamp House, rocks guests with 360 degrees of motion. Airbags positioned in each corner of the room inflate at different cycles, which makes visitors feel like they're floating on a bayou.
Each airbag can actually support 6,500 pounds apiece, so the entire house can support a weight of about 25,000 pounds. The airbags themselves have rubber bumpers in them to stop them from going down too far, but they'll essentially go up until they explode. These chains can each support 15,000 pounds apiece, so there should never be a situation where the airbag can break them. To mount the airbag to the chains, we used a 2.5-inch thick steel base plate.
In this mad manner, the guests set off most of the special effects.
All of our animations at the Darkness are on motion sensors, which means anytime a customer walks past, like this one right here underneath the moss, it triggers the animation to come up and scare them. It ensures that everything goes off right when we want it to.
The scare factor inside the Darkness is compounded by its disturbing set designs, especially those made to look like they're coated in blood and vomit. John Ives has mastered what he likes to call gorification and turns stomachs with his deathly dinner party. Ives makes everyday household items into ultra-realistic looking putrid food.
Basically what I'm making is a gory table, like an old table that maybe some zombies or someone like that was eating on it and they just went crazy, and then a lot of the food was rotten. Maybe someone threw up on the table.
Drywall mud and paint form the base for John's larger piles of partially digested rotting chow. He adds rice, oatmeal, cereal, and other dry goods for that extra touch of nauseating realism.
You want to make different looking textures and different looking things. You can use just about anything. As long as you mix it with the shellac and everything, it'll be okay because it'll preserve it.
The shellac also keeps the scene looking fresh. This gut-busting dinner from hell is topped off with a very special recipe for fake blood.
Our permablood is unique in that it dries, but it never looks dry. It always stays glossy. It's flexible, so it can actually be used on fabric or props, and it's essentially a permanent paint. Once it's on, it never comes off.
The blood has 3 liquid components: an acrylic base, a medical-grade adhesive, and a binding agent.
The last thing that we add is, sort of the heart of it, is the pigment. It's a careful combination of magenta, yellow, and blue dry pigment. It gives it a real nice, real rich, sort of fresh blood look.
For Larry Kirchner and his team, their work on the Darkness embodies everything they love about giving people the fright of their lives.
By having your own haunted attraction, it's like living out the holiday. You're actually able to create your own environment, your own movie, your own interactive play. And all the guests who pay you for it are your specimens, and you're able to test your latest creations on them and see if that scares them or what effect people have by your crazy imagination. The biggest thing about having a good haunted house is just that passion, that love of Halloween.
Love and Halloween may seem like strange bedfellows, but really they're not. Just ask any kid or adult who's made the neighborhood rounds on the night of nights.
Nie, to już nie fajne, bo machają czy do dżemu. Cześć, dobra.